Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening po everyone. Welcome po sa ating 96th episode of the Stop COVID Deaths webinar series. And it is not just our 96th episode. Our episode today marks our second year anniversary for this webinar series. Maraming salamat po for being part of our credible online community. And to all those who have just discovered us for today, welcome po, lalo na po dun po sa ating mga nanonood from Bataan. Meron din po tayong mga nanonood po from the Senior Citizens Association, Felina Village, Tisa, Cebu City, from the University of Northern Philippines, Vigan City in Ilocos Sur, Tarlac Provincial Hospital in Tarlac City, Ifugao State University, Eye Center in Alfonso Lista, Ifugao, the Senate of the Philippines in Pasay City, Legaspi City Hospital in Albay, Divine Word Hospital in Tacloban City in Leyte, and San Pedro College, Davao City and Davao del Sur. So, marami na rin po tayong napagdaanan. It's been 2 years since we started our webinar series. Talaga po lumilipad ang oras. We really never thought that we would see the light at the end of the tunnel. We can see it now, but we are not yet out po ng tunnel, so to speak. And looking back, ano na po ba ang ating mga natutunan? Ano po ba ang pwede nating ma-carry over to the future na mga lessons po and best practices? Ang ating po bang mga health services naging much better organized po ba? Were we able to train our doctors and nurses well during the pandemic? Were we able to turn this crisis into an opportunity to create reforms in healthcare systems? So yun po yung mga katanungan po na talagang pagtatalakayan po natin for today, and through the eyes of the frontliners, patients, hospital administrators, and researchers, we are bringing together 4 leaders representing different perspectives po, no, who have all contributed significantly to the response to COVID-19, and we'll ask them to share their personal insights on the topic at hand. So join us today. Ang ating pong episode title po ay Giting at Tapang sa Panahon ng Pandemya, Reflecting on COVID-19 Lessons. I'm Dr. Raymond Francis Sarmiento, Director of National Telehealth Center, National Institutes of Health, University of the Philippines, Manila. So always a pleasure to be with all of you during our regular Friday lunch date or Fridates po, no? And as you all know, I'm happy to share hosting duties with our adjunct research faculty at the National Telehealth Center, also the special envoy of the President for Global Health Initiatives, Dr. Susie Pineda Mercado. Dr. Susie, happy 2 years.
Hi, happy anniversary, Raymond. Ako, talaga naman 2 years nang lumipas. I'd like to thank all of our regular participants in the webinar. Kung hindi po sa inyo, hindi po tayo aabot ng 2 taon na to. At saka, we have some very interesting surprises later. Siyempre, we want a little fun naman, no? So, parang pag-uusapan natin itong mga dinaanan, itong mga leaders natin. We always bring you the best speakers. And today, because it's our anniversary, you're really gonna get the cream of the crop, no? Yun talagang those who have been working with us and who have been working quietly behind the scenes to define what the health sector response will be. So yeah, I Raymond, I don't know, what did you say? 96 ba? 96th episode na ba, Raymond? Ano ba? 96?
That's correct. 96.
Malapit na tayong mag-100. Talaga naman, this is the longest running webinar probably. Okay, so our topic is Giting at Tapang sa panahon ng pandemya, reflecting on COVID-19 lessons. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a more kind of very intimate personal discussion with our leaders and try to get a sense of what did we learn in the past 2 years? May natutunan ba tayo? Are we better off? Are we better prepared if something happens again? And so we are going to have a presentation, but we will also have personal insights. And it's only here at Stop COVID Deaths that you get to see up close some of these doctors. And we're very grateful to them also for giving us their time and for just being with us this past 2 years, because you've always seen them here on the webinar. Okay, so I think when we talk about Tapang, Giting at Tapang, I think what we really faced from the beginning of the pandemic was fear. It was fear of the unknown, fear of something that we couldn't control. And we dedicate this webinar, of course, to our frontliners, to you, because overcoming that fear has been our key to success. Na hindi tayo natatakot, no? Well, meron tayong kaba, pero hindi tayo duwag. No, we face what we have to face. We do what we need to do. But in this journey, we have lost some of those who were brave, were courageous, and who, what should I say? They sacrificed their life during this time for our patients. So TVUP, please show us our tribute for COVID-19, our memorial.
Another day feels like an inch from yesterday. My love will be away, be strong for me in every way. Although it's hard to go, my heart with you will always stay. I'll have to keep the promise I have made. Can't tell how long it's been, the enemy remains unseen. I'll keep your hand in mine. Let's say a prayer one more time. I know you long for home, but I am here, you're not alone. I'll stay with you until the coast is clear. The other's pain before my fears, the other's love before my tears. But right behind the mask, I look into myself and ask, do I have strength to carry on? Oh God, how long must this go on? I need you here to keep me strong. I'm here to hold the line. I'll keep my word until my time. Just look into my eyes and say his name to realize it's fine to be afraid. Just hold on to the word he gave. This time will come to pass, 'cause this salvation's made to last. He'll carry you to see the break of day. The other's pain before my fears, the other's vows before my tears. But right behind the mask, I look into myself and ask, do I have strength to carry on? But God, how long must this go on? I need you here to keep me strong. I'm here to hold the line. I'll keep my word until my time. The other's pain before my fears, the other's loves before my tears. But right behind the mask, I look into myself and ask, do I have strength to carry on? But God, how long must this go on? I need you here to keep me strong. I'll keep my word, your word is mine. The other's pain before my fears, I'm pushing on despite the tears. Please take us through another day. Just hold my hand, and I will hold the line. I will hold the line.
Wow. Very difficult. Very difficult to see that, Raymond. No?
It's true.
Napakadami. Thank you so much. I guess maraming anghel sa langit na gumagabay sa atin. I think it's just a stark reminder na we just went through a very difficult 2 years and we lost so many in a short period of time. So.
At maraming salamat din po sa mga kapamilya, kamag-anak, mga kaibigan who were able to share the pictures at saka mga a little bit stories po and a few more details nung naging mga parte po ng ating COVID-19 tribute memorial. Maraming salamat din po to TVUP for really just preparing that very touching tribute to our Filipino medical frontliners who have been recognized not just here in the Philippines but also internationally. We hope that the COVID-19 Heroes Memorial digital album, if you go to our Facebook page, Stop COVID Deaths po, you'll be able to see that in the special video tribute po. We hope that we get the chance to really remember them, immortalize their selfless contributions in the fight against COVID-19. Ito pong tinutukoy ko po na COVID-19 Heroes Memorial Digital Album, which can be found, again, in the Stop COVID Deaths Facebook page. It's a visual living memorial that can be updated as you send in your photos. And as mentioned po, may mga international po tayong mga medical frontliners, just like po dito na kasama po sa memorial, just like po dito po sa mga nanonood natin from the Ministry of Health, from Bandar Seri Begawan in Brunei, Chuanin Hospital in Taiwan, Canton City in Vietnam, University of Khail in Saudi Arabia, Prince Sultan Military College of Health Sciences in Dammam, Saudi Arabia again, Qasim University, Buraida, Saudi Arabia, Lunichi Ali, University of Lida 2 in Algeria, Burbank and Stockton, California, the Philippine Nurses Association, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and finally, our regulars from the St. Eustatius Auxiliary Home Foundation from the Netherlands, Antilles. Okay, so maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. And speaking of international po, no, Dr. Susie, we have a very special announcement for everybody which we have just learned from yesterday po.
Yeah, alam mo, Raymond, well, you know, before we leave the memorial, no, I think
Sige po.
yung parang by remembering all those who gave their lives, and some of them are our friends, no, people who we know, our family members. That should be our inspiration to do better. Should be our inspiration to do better, and we thank R.D. Lopez who wrote the music for the theme song of our webinar. Remember, Raymond, back in the day when we were starting, sabi namin, dapat yata may background music. Tapos nag-iisip kami, paano tayong kukuhang background music na mabayad pa tayong royalty, wala naman tayong pera para gumawa. And R.D. Lopez gave us this song, and I think I don't know, I just feel that it's kind of what should I say? Parang nakaano na yan parang nakaukit na sa puso natin, no? Yung kanta, yung awit, tsaka yung mga itong mga nauna na, no, those who left. So I think our best tribute really is to do our best and to keep on the fight and to continue to be vigilant and to strive for excellence, no, for our people during this pandemic and beyond. And in that spirit, Raymond, we are very happy to announce to you that we just got an award, an international award. So ito po ang award ng Stop COVID Deaths. Thank you very much. This is for all of you, for all of us, all of you, and we will not be here if it were not for you. And we also, just want to extend this thanks to all of the people who spoke at this webinar and who continue to contribute to new knowledge, new understanding, and really striving for the best. No, again, in memory of all those who gave their lives for the pandemic. Okay, Raymond, ikaw naman.
Maraming salamat po.
Masyado na ako nag-emote dito. Ikaw naman.
Maraming salamat po. Just a brief backgrounder kung ano po yung Gold Quill Awards. The Gold Quill Awards recognizes and awards excellence in strategic communication worldwide and is acknowledged as one of the most prestigious awards programs in the industry. It's given out by the International Association of Business Communicators, or the IABC. That is the recognized global community of communication professionals representing diverse industries and disciplines. So maraming salamat po ulit sa inyong patuloy na suporta, patuloy po na pagtangkilik. At ito po, hindi po talaga namin to mapapangyarihan if not for each and every one of you. And just to let everyone know, our webinar can accommodate up to a maximum of 3,000 participants. So please join us in the Zoom. We know that you are watching the live stream po sa YouTube and then on our Facebook pages in the University of the Philippines, TVUP, and Stop COVID Deaths. But we hope you'll be able to join us here in Zoom. We are seeing a little over half of those who have registered for this webinar are already in the Zoom. Hopefully, you'll be able to join us and to ask your questions later on sa ating mga panelists. But if you are in the YouTube or Facebook po, just put in your questions in the comment section po sa YouTube or sa Facebook. For those who are asking, certificates of attendance will be given to those who have watched at least 50% of the webinar duration. We have already completed sending out for all 94 webinars. May mga mapahuli pa po na isinesend out for webinar number 95, and please let us know by messaging or emailing po stopcoviddeaths@up.edu.ph for those who have not received for webinar 1 to 94 po. If you feel that you should have received that, we'll essentially have our standard panel discussion for today. We'll have a speaker and then a set of reactors po, and then moving on to our Q&A session. Dr. Susie?
Yeah, Raymond, ako na lang magsasabi. Si Raymond, merong mga sorpresa para sa inyo mamaya. Kasi it's anniversary. Remember, an anniversary, we always like to give out some swag. We always like to share a little, happiness, joy. So sabihin nyo doon sa mga hindi pa papasok sa Zoom, pumasok na sila.
Pumasok na sila.
Kaya merong mga pamimigay si Raymond mamaya. Meron siyang mga just tokens of appreciation for being part of the community. All right, let's go to our introductory speaker. So our speaker, kilala nyo, our first giting at tapang speaker, ay talagang magiting at talagang matapang. And as you know, we would not have this webinar if he had not made it possible for this to be a university-wide project with TVUP. And later on, he became the senior advisor of the National Task Force Against COVID-19, was really responsible for getting all those millions of vaccines into the country as part of a team, okay? And he's now the chair of the Department of Emergency Medicine of the Philippine General Hospital. Please welcome one of your favorites, Dr. Ted Herbosa. Ted, welcome.
Thank you very much, Susie, and good afternoon, Raymond. Also, good afternoon to all the followers and dedicated viewers of Stop COVID Deaths. Mabuhay po kayong lahat. First of all, let me congratulate all the people involved with Stop COVID Deaths, including our thousands of supporters nationwide and internationally. It is our 96th webinar and our second year anniversary. Wow, quite an accomplishment. It is with your hard work and dedication that our Stop COVID Deaths have won the prestigious Golden Quill Awards in Risk Communications, and this is an international award, as has been previously mentioned. When Susie and I talked about this project in April of 2020, I just started working for the National Task Force as a special advisor. We were not thinking of international awards, but we were thinking of a better way to inform the public and the healthcare workers about COVID-19 and how to stop COVID deaths. So many of our colleagues had died by then, and you saw the very emotional video that was presented. As then Executive Vice President of the University of the Philippines System, I saw an opportunity to combine different resources from the different autonomous units of the University of the Philippines System to address risk communication in the time of a pandemic of a novel illness. In behalf of the Office of the President, we put together the Stop COVID Deaths team, TVUP, and the Office of the Vice President for Public Affairs at the Office of the President, the National Telehealth Center of the UP National Institutes of Health at UP Manila, the Philippine General Hospital, and the College of Medicine at UP Manila that provided us with all the health experts in the subsequent webinars. There was also the UP Philippine Genome Center and the UP Resilience Institute of the UP system that provided us with lots of expertise in the other fields of risk communication and sciences. Truly, it was a UP system contribution to the nation. What happened next was a colossal hit. I would like to thank all those behind the scenes, yung mga hindi nyo po nakikita that make it possible every time. Vice President Neni Pernia and Assistant Vice President Rica Abad, who painlessly spends hours of meetings to prepare the next webinar event. Professor Gigi Alfonso, our Executive Director of TVUP and a very able direct, talagang direct of Stop COVID Deaths. Today, we address the lessons learned from our nation's COVID-19 response. Now we are on our third year of implementation of this response. And I'd like to welcome our speaker, who is my fraternity brother and dedicated and talented health systems and health policy expert, Dr. Albert Domingo, who worked with us in the Department of Health as a consultant. He helped us flatten the management structure of the Department of Health, making it more efficient at that time. He helped conceptualize the universal healthcare framework or advocacy for kalusugang pangkalahatan, the syntax law that led to financing of universal healthcare, and the payment schemes at PhilHealth that helped the government hospitals improve their services to the people. After that, he worked with the World Health Organization Western Pacific Regional Office, and most recently, I have seen him appointed to a well-deserved Director III position for health promotions and communications at the Department of Health, where he rightfully belongs and can now contribute tremendously to the universal healthcare implementation in the Philippines. I am very sure with his vast experience and knowledge in health systems locally and internationally, he will address the lessons learned by government, the National Task Force, the Department of Health, the private sector, and the Filipino people. I also would like to thank the Reactors, very able supporters of Stop COVID Deaths. There's my professor, of course, Dr. Domingo, Chancellor Menchit of UP Manila, Dean Charlotte Chiong of the College of Medicine, Director Gap of the Philippine General Hospital. Sila ang mga magigiting at matatapang na lumaban sa pandemya. They are equally engaged in the front lines in the fight against COVID-19, and now I think engaged in the implementation of universal healthcare. Sabi nga namin sa disaster medicine, in every crisis, there is an opportunity. This pandemic has brought forward all the weaknesses of our health system, and this has led us to improve it. I won't speak any longer as our speaker is an excellent one and can sure synthesize our lessons in COVID-19. I see now he is more buffed up with muscle mass as he wisely used the quarantine and isolation to even improve his own personal health. I follow you on Instagram and Twitter, Albert, so I can see your muscle mass growing. Mabuhay and Stop COVID Deaths. And back to you, Susie and Raymond.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Dr. Ted Herbosa. Raymond, nakakatuwa, no? Parang may reunion tayo dito. Anong tingin mo?
Thank you po. Thank you, Sir Ted, for really sharing your reflections, especially yung pong the origin story, so to speak, of the Stop COVID Deaths webinar series. And we are really very thankful just for sharing the approaches po. And we cannot wait to hear our very first speaker for today. But before that, as early as now, we encourage everyone to start typing in your questions in the Zoom Q&A or in the comment section po ulit. ng Stop COVID Deaths Facebook page or TVUP or the TVUP YouTube channel po. We will be scanning all of these platforms po, and we hope to be able to choose the appropriate questions, and maybe especially those who are in the Zoom, we'd ask those to ask your questions live to any of our expert panel of speakers. Without further ado, Dr. Susie will
Raymond,
introduce.
teka, may napansin ako may mga heart na lumalabas dito sa baba. Bago ba yan?
Okay. May reactions yan eh, Dr. Susie. If you go to the reactions, there's the
Okay. Bakit
clap-clap
hindi
and
ko
the
nakikita yung mga heart na yan? Sige nga, magibas
Mga
na yung mga heart dyan. Cute yan ah.
I think it's a very new
Ayan na, dami oh.
to the webinar.
Nakakatuwa naman. Yeah, I want to send you all hearts now. I think, it's been 2 years, as Ted said, and we wouldn't be here if not for you. And yes, so we're going to reflect on lessons learned, and we've got a great speaker. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our main presenter. He's not a stranger. In fact, when we first wrote the concept note for Stop COVID Deaths, it was Albert and I who worked on this. And, he has moved really rapidly through the health system in the past few years. And finally, he's where he needs to be at the Department of Health, where he is Concurrent Director III of the DOH Communication Office and the Disease Prevention and Control Bureau. And we are all seeing a very bright future for him. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity for him to also collect his thoughts before moving forward with the Department of Health. Collect his thoughts on what did we learn from the pandemic. So let's welcome Dr. Albert Francis E. Domingo. Albert, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, Ma'am Susie. Thank you, Raymond, my classmate Raymond. And it's always a pleasure to have a homecoming of sorts. Wow. As I was looking through the preliminary videos, 2 years na po pala, no? It's really been that long. As Raymond said, yeah, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but we're not yet at the end of the tunnel. But before we get to that end of the tunnel, it will be my pleasure to discuss what have we learned so far. So with your permission, ma'am, and Raymond, I will now start sharing my slides.
Go ahead, Albert. Go ahead.
Thank you, Pa. All right. So this is a discussion. I'll try to keep it within the limit of 15 minutes because I also love discussing things in a question and answer Socratic format. So UHC, instead of saying universal healthcare, let's say universal health and COVID-19. Republic Act 11223 and lessons from the pandemic. We all talk about UHC, universal health coverage internationally, in the Philippines, universal healthcare. Pero I always say, no, kung tatagalugin natin yan, ito kasi you're seeing the technical definition in black. All people having access to quality health services without suffering the financial hardship associated with paying for care. Ano ngayon? Ano ngayon? Kung sisimplihan natin yan, pag nasa ER ka, and I see that Dr. Herbosa is now the chair, again, of the ER of PGH. Pero kahit nasa ang ER ka at merong pasyente, dalawa lang tatanungin sa'yo ng pasyente, Doc, Ma'am, Sir, gagaling ba ako? At magkano babayaran ko? Two things. Will I get well and how much will I pay? Sometimes it's the other way around. It's the first question becomes, magkano po babayaran ko, Doc? Bago pa mo siya magtanong kung gagaling ba ako sa gagawin mo sa akin, si papainom mo o kaya sa procedure na gagawin natin. That in a nutshell is universal healthcare or universal health coverage. If you can answer the two questions adequately na, opo, gagaling po kayo at mababa lang o kaya libre ang inyong babayaran, then we would have achieved universal healthcare. And how do we do that? We go through this continuum of care. Ano ba yung continuum of care na sinasabi? It's like a traffic light that most of us always want to be in the green box where everyone is healthy, wala tayong problema, tayo nakikipagkita sa ating mga kapamilya, kamag-anak, kapatid. Yeah? We meet all of them on a daily basis. But every day, the moment you wake up, the moment you go out of your house, or even inside your house, the moment you eat breakfast or you drink something, we all expose ourselves to risks. And if we do not manage that risk, it can lead to early disease or injury. Yan pong yellow box na nakikita natin sa slide natin ngayon. The early disease or injury, if not detected adequately or early enough, can actually progress to something which is advanced or complicated or chronic. And unfortunately, can also lead, of course, to death. Everyone does die. Medyo napaka-morbid ng thought na yon. But the reality is, everyone will pass away. But in public health, our goal is to make sure you don't reach the finish line soon or very early. We want everyone to live full, healthy, well, and happy lives. No, that's what we want to do, and we do that through the interventions of primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention. Think of it as checkpoints. I have to discuss all of this because I have to contextualize universal healthcare in the sense that it is a systemic reform. It's about resources, it's about financing, it's about stewardship. Yung sinasabing stewardship po, ibig sabihin yung pamamahala, the governance that there is that's running the show. Paano ba umaandar ang ating pamamahala dito sa ating universal healthcare? Hindi lang po sa ospital. Kasi karaniwan ang nagiging imagery, ang nagiging kwento, ang nagiging konsepto ng universal healthcare ay ito yung nakikita natin sa loob ng ospital, no? But actually it's beyond the hospital. It's also to the outpatient department. Hindi pa ho ito panahon ng COVID. Huwag niyong sawayin si ate na nakababa yung face mask dun sa bandang kaliwa. Pero it's actually, I think this is a tuberculosis clinic. That's why even before the pandemic, pansin niyo po yung mga pasyente dito naka-face mask na sila. But having said that, it's just not in the hospital. It's also to the outpatient and also to the community. The journey of the country towards universal healthcare did not begin just in the term of the current president. It began all the way through the many presidents before him. Parang paatras, no? Umatras tayo kay President Noynoy Aquino, and then President Gloria Arroyo, and then President Joseph Estrada, and then President Ramos, the first administration of the Aquinos, Corazon Aquino, all the way to the Marcos time of 1969. I've listed here all of the policies since then. So if you ask me, wala talaga siyang pinipili na administration, tumatawid siya. And even moving forward, it's not going to stop just because we have a Universal Healthcare Act already. It will also go to the next president, whoever's going to win this coming election. And even after that term of that president, sunod-sunod po yan, hindi po yan. Sabi nga nila, parang halos never-ending journey. Well, it's always a correction of bad practices. It's always about reinforcing good practices. To the credit of the current president, of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, he accelerated the formal legislation of the Universal Healthcare Act when he said these things during his SONA. Sinabi niya na, I urge the speedy passage of the Universal Healthcare Bill, and voila, nagkaroon nga ng Republic Act 11223, which seeks to ensure that all Filipinos are guaranteed equitable access to quality and affordable healthcare goods and services and protected against financial risk. Ano ngayon? Lagi ko pong sinasabi yung ano ngayon kasi in health policy, which is my primary field of expertise, we love writing everything in crisp English, nice frameworks, nice diagrams to explain how the systems will work. Pero sa totoo lang po, lalo na ngayong ako'y nasa DOH na, ang pangunahing tungkulin ko ay ang komunikasyon, no? Communication. Kailangan nating iparating sa ating mga kababayan, ano ngayon ang ibig sabihin ng lahat ng ginagawa natin sa health reform, sa ospital, at kung saan man tayo nakatakda magtrabaho. The major reforms seek to do the following 5 points. Medyo complicated pa rin, subukan kong tagulugin. Una, sino ba talaga magbabayad para sa mga serbisyon yan? Ako ba? Kamag-anak ko ba? Ang PhilHealth ba? Ang DOH ba? Sino ba talaga yan? So lilinawin yan dapat ng UHC. Consolidate financial flows. Ang dami ko na binabayaran. Nagbabayad ako ng PhilHealth, nagbabayad ako ng income tax, nagbayad pa ako ng VAT, tumaas na naman yung presyo ng gasolina, may VAT yun, di ba? Paano yan pupunta dun sa hospital bill ko kapag ako ay paalis na, pa-discharge na? Ba't meron pang balance bill dyan? Magbabayad na naman ako? So kasama yan sa gustong ayusin ng universal healthcare. Number 3, integrate local health systems at province city level. Ang dami kong kailangan puntahan. Punta ako sa RHU, punta ako sa district hospital, pwede bang isa na lang kausapin ko para hindi na ako palipat-lipat? Tapos yung private hospital, hindi nakikipag-usap dun sa public hospital. Pwede bang isa na lang rin na magiging patient navigator? Yan. Sinusubukan rin yung ayusin ng universal healthcare para ang dami ng gustong ayusin, no? And then number 4, konektado dun sa number 3, establish healthcare provider networks that may include the private sector. Yan yung nag-uusap dapat yung mga ospital. Hindi lang yung government hospital na nag-uusap sa government, pati yung private kasama sila. And number 5, naririnig natin ngayon, lahat tayo excited na siguro magpa-second booster shot. Pero ano tong sinasabi na inaantay yung guidelines ng HTAC? HTAC. Ano ba yung HTAC na yan? Health Technology Assessment Council. At kaakibat niyan ay ang health promotion na kinakailangan para ang demand para sa bakuna ay tumaas. So sinusubukan ko na siyang haluan ng mga konsepto natin when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sabi nga ng mga millennials, tsaka yung mga Gen Z, meron tayong expectation versus reality. The expectation of universal healthcare is that Filipinos and patients will be health literate, practice the healthy lifestyle, healthcare workers, magandang sweldo, earn decent predictable income, and be able to pursue career paths. Ang mga tagabayad, ang PhilHealth, ang HMOs ay mag-uusap-usap at ang kanilang bayad ay gagamitin para mas maganda ang mga serbisyo. Napakagandang pakinggan, kaya ang expectation ang tawag eh. Providers earn a positive margin. Ang ospital ay hindi malulugi. Hindi na magkakaproblema si Director Gap kung paano balansehin ang mga balance sheets ng PGH dahil hindi lang siya at lahat ng ibang hospital ay sana maayos yung positive margin na sinasabi. Tapos yung mga suppliers ng drugs, devices, and diagnostic tests, sana maayos rin ang kanilang kita na hindi sumusobra at talagang interesado sila sa kapakanan ng taong bayan. But expectation is not always the case and we have the reality. Hindi ko napapasukin ng technical details pero pinapakita kong slide kung gaano karaming araw ang nakikita nyo. Yan rin po ang komplikasyon kung paano patakbuhin ang sistema ng kalusugan sa Pilipinas. Yung mga araw na orange, yung takbo ng pera mula sa ating mga bulsa papunta sa mga ospital o kaya sa mga clinic na kailangan natin puntahan para kumuha ng serbisyo. Yung mga green na araw sa baba, yung mga araw kung saan tayo nagpupunta sa mga clinic, sa mga ospital, sa whether it's a district hospital or a tertiary hospital, a provincial hospital or a private hospital, yan po yung mga iba't ibang service delivery points. Wag na natin pasukin yung masalumuot na komplikasyon. I-simplify na lang natin na meron tayong dapat tignan na 6 building blocks of the health system. Yung financing, yung serbisyo, yung mga gamot at yung mga bakuna at teknolohiya, yung mga tao na nagpapatakbo ng health system, umiikot po ako clockwise. Yung mga nagpapatakbo, yung governance and stewardship. At yung pinaka nasa lower left, yung health information systems, yung impormasyon, hindi lang yung computer tsaka papel, yan yung mga datos na kailangan natin para alam natin kung tayo paano umandar sa universal healthcare. Tapos biglang nagkaroon ng pandemic. Okay na sana lahat, no? Parang ang dami ng problema susubukang ayusin. Ang dami ng mga pangako, ang dami ng vision, naging batas na. Then biglang nagkaroon ng pandemic. Natigil ba ang universal healthcare dahil sa pandemic? Ang sagot dyan ay hindi. Dahil the pandemic provided challenges and opportunities. There are varied perspectives. Ang daming dati, nung wala pa yung pandemic, kanya-kanyang version, kanya-kanyang slide deck, kanya-kanyang talk kung anong universal healthcare. Tapos medyo natagalan ng konti yung paggawa ng implementing rules. Aba ngayon, hindi na pwedeng sabihin na walang implementing rules. We have the IRR, we have the administrative orders, it is time to implement. And where are we going to do it? In 33+++, nagsimula po yan 33. Pero habang tumatagal, dagdag, which is good kasi yung mga probinsya gusto nang sumama. Dati kasi hesitant sila eh. Dahil sa COVID-19 pandemic, nakita yung mga priority areas. Kaya ang daming probinsya na sabi, pwede bang sumali na rin kami sa UHC na yan? Kasi nahirapan kami nung nag-surge dahil sa COVID-19 pandemic. At bakit sila nahirapan? Kasi mahina yung primary healthcare system. UHC is also about making primary healthcare work. Yan sinasabi na UHC through primary healthcare, hindi naman yan parang advocacy lang, hindi yan advocacy lang. Yan ay talagang pamamaraan kung paano patakbuhin ng health system. Dapat merong pondo, dapat merong benepisyo, dapat merong participation hindi lang ng gobyerno kundi ng pribadong sektor. Kasi hindi naman sa lahat ng lugar gobyerno lang yun nandun. O kaya ang ating mga kababayan ay may mga tanong kung tungkol sa kalidad ng mga serbisyo sa government hospitals at government clinics. At dapat, yung pinakahuling bullet sa kanan, meron tayong governance arrangements for accelerated decision making. Mabilisan. At pag sinabing mabilisan, tignan nyo yung Republic Act 11469. Yan ang sinatawag ko na emergency legislation. Bakit nakalagay dyan yung screenshot nung pinaka-front page ng Republic Act 11469? Kasi yung petsa nakalagay, Marso 23, 2020, nag-lockdown ang Pilipinas. Kung di ako nagkakamali, March 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 6 na araw, kulang pa sa isang linggo, may lumabas na bagong batas. Sino nagsabing hindi kaya ng Kongreso at ng Senado na gumawa ng batas within 1 week? Kung sino man siya, sinungaling. Well, kasi nga, nagkaroon ng emergency. The COVID-19 pandemic showed us na totoo nga naman sa Tagalog, kung gusto, may paraan. Kung ayaw, maraming dahilan. Gusto nating matapos yung pandemic, kaya ayan, legislate tayo. Yung napaka-complicated na nakikita nyo ngayon, kung ang tanong ay meron bang scientific basis ang pagpapatakbo ng pandemic response sa Pilipinas, meron po. Hindi lang natin pwedeng ilagay ito lahat sa newspaper, sa TV, kasi pag ginawa po natin to, wala nang manonood, wala nang makikinig. Kasi kailangan ipaliwanag yung pinaka-basic sa mga epidemiologic model, yung susceptible, exposed, infected, recovered. Ang daming variations niyan. Hindi po ako epidemiologist, kaya hindi ko din susubukan ipaliwanag. Pero in simple terms, ang katumbas po niyan sa pagpapatakbo ng pandemic response ay yung tinatawag na PDIT. Nasaan yung R? Yung R kasi recovery. Sa ating epidemiologic model, ang pasok po is yung P, prevent, D, detect, I, isolate, at T, treat. PDIT. At may mga picture. Naalala niyo yung pinapapila po tayo na social distancing, physical distancing? Nawala na dahil mukhang naging kampante ng mga tao dahil mababa yung case count. Ingat pa rin po, may COVID pa. Yung D&I, yung testing, dati-rati, yung ating mga PCR test, ay good luck kung lumabas yung resulta sa loob ng 5 araw. Ngayon, kahit hindi ka magbayad, tip, huwag na kayo magbayad ng special rate. Kasi kahit yung regular rate, lalabas yan within 6 to 8 hours of the same day. No? Tapos yung isolate, dati nagkakandara pa, nagkukulang ng kama. Aba ngayon, ang daming mga lugar. Although, syempre, nagbukas na uli yung mga hotel kasi may mga turista na. Pero nakita natin na kung kailangan pala, lahat ng mga hotel na ginagamit ng mga turista, pwedeng i-convert. Lahat ng mga pasilidad na usually ginagamit sa ibang purpose, pwedeng i-convert to makeshift temporary treatment and monitoring facilities, yung sinasabing ligtas COVID. Tapos yung T, hindi yan yung T na parang si oblation na letter T, pero that is the treatment. At nakikita natin, syempre biased ako sa aking home institution, ng Philippine General Hospital. Pero hindi lang siya nag-iisa. Marami siyang mga kasamahan po, ang Lung Center of the Philippines, ang Tala Hospital, Rodriguez Hospital. At hindi lang yan, nung nag-surge na talaga, wala nang designation. Lahat ng hospital na available, drop everything and start treating COVID patients. And the treatments were really good. The case fatality rate of the Philippines is more or less low compared to other countries. Hindi naman tayo perfect, pero hindi rin tayo masama. The private sector came in when they were needed. During the detect phase, ang daming pumasok, no? Ito yung sinasabi na hatian. Although marami pa rin public laboratories na 64%, mga 36%, a significant chunk was also by the private sector. And thank you to PhilHealth for actually stepping up na nagkaroon bigla ng testing benefit. Of course, ibang usapin yung full implementation kasi depende yan sa category of test, di ba? Kung kailan ka pinatest, etc. Yan yung mga bagay-bagay na kailangang tandaan. Now, what about this one? Yung sa detection and isolation. Wag niyo ho akong tanungin tungkol sa vaccination certificate. Pero alam niyo ba, kahapon may ka-meeting po ako na foreign delegation from a US-based health project. Tapos sabi nila, naiinggit daw sila sa ating vax-cert. Sabi ko, really? Are you envious of the vaccination certificate of the Philippines? Why? Because apparently sa US, yung kanilang CDC card ay hindi pa daw digitized. I'm not so sure, pero yun ang pagkasabi sa akin eh. Dito daw kasi may QR code tayo. Sabi ko naman, ngumingiti ako. Actually, hindi pa updated yung QR code ko eh. Hindi na mahanap yung booster shot. But again, like I say, our systems may not be perfect, but we have shown locally and internationally that if we want something to form, if we want something to take shape, we can, and we can do so fast. When it comes to the healthcare provider network, hirap na hirap nung una i-imagine, ano ba yung HCPN na yan? Ano ba yung healthcare provider network na sinasabi sa UHC law? Pumutok ang pandemic. Sige, ayaw nyo mag-form ng network, saan pupunta yung mga pasyente? Nagkaroon ngayon ng healthcare provider networks, nag-usap-usap, naging mas maayos ang mga referrals. Again, it's not perfect. Nagkaroon ng moments na na-overwhelm ang National Patient Referral Center o yung dating tinatawag na One Hospital Command. Pero buti na lang nagkaroon tayo ng One Hospital Command. Imagine kung wala. So those are the things that the pandemic, among many other things, no, na itong nakikita nyo na complicated na schematic ng UHC, hindi ko na rin ipapaliwanag, na simplify. Nagkaroon ng department memo ang DOH na sinasabi na ganito ang takbo ng pasyente. At nakita nyo yung lower left, may telepono. Dati-rati, walang naniniwala kay Director Raymond Sarmiento na importante. May naniniwala naman na importante ang telehealth, importante ang telereferrals. But the pandemic actually catalyzed the formation of telemedicine networks, the drafting of the telemedicine policy. Because doctors were afraid, and rightfully so, kasi mahahawa kung physical kagad. So kung kaya namang i-telemedicine, telemedicine na. Nagawa rin yan ng pandemic. So hindi natin sinasabi na thank you to the pandemic kasi malaking problema rin at nakita natin marami tayong mga kabaro, mga kamag-anak na namatay dahil sa pandemic. But in a way, the pandemic was an unexpected negative surprise that catalyzed things. And I'm showing you, I think I'm needing the last few slides, no? Many policies that came out where the public and the private sector really work together. Yung dating sinasabing PPP, Public-Private Partnership, ito, totoo na talaga, nagkatotoo na. Kasi nga, napilitan dahil merong kalaban na common. Yung sinasabing whole of government, tapos sabi nila noon, mahirap pagganahin yung devolution, ganyan. O sige, IATF, NTF, nagkaroon ng immediate coordination. Ngayon, it's still being done, no? Yung alert level systems in the vaccination also. It just shows that if we all put our energies together against a common enemy, and in this case, it's the virus that causes COVID-19, we can actually have a whole of government response that makes the evolution work. What is our way forward? Strengthen, suppress, and break the chains, no? Yung nakikita niyo sa baba, hindi yan roller coaster track, hindi rin niyo po yung chocolate hills. Yan po ay epidemic curve. Yan yung curve na sinasabi. It's a schematic representation. Yung AL, hindi po ibig sabihin Albert. Ibig sabihin po alert level. We are now at alert level 1. Does it mean we have to relax ourselves? No. We have to strengthen. It is time to rapidly and from a bottoms-up perspective, install the systems that we need. We need to adapt best practices. We need to make sure that there's performance accountability. And kahit wala pa pong surge, wag na nating antayin magkaroon ng surge. Mag-practice tayo kahit desktop exercise lang, scenarios. Anong mangyayari pag may pumasok na bagong variant? Anong mangyayari kapag nawalan tayo ng bakuna? Kung yari lang, pero marami tayong bakuna ngayon, and so on and so forth. If we do reach alert level 2 or alert level 3, we now know that we have PDITR and it works, and we know what particular techniques of implementation work and what will not work, so that we can suppress the virus from spreading further. And ultimately, break the chains of transmission, keep the positivity rate. Akala natin noon yung positivity rate hindi natin ma-achieve, no? Na 5% or less. Ngayon, ilang weeks na. Baka 2 months na yata na mababa. Sana it stays that way. Pero sabi nga nila, the pandemic is not over. So it is still possible for us to have surges. That's why we go back to the strengthen, suppress, and break the chain framework. How do we do it? We integrate technically. Ang daming mga disease entities dati na kanya-kanyang program yung patakbo. May sariling takbo ang reproductive health, sariling takbo ang NCD, sariling takbo ang sanitation. Nung nagkaroon ng COVID-19, sige. Everyone work in the context of COVID-19, and COVID-19 should not be the only thing that we are attending to. Nakikita yan, lalo na sa mga ospital. Ang daming pasyente inantay na mawala muna yung COVID bago magpakonsulta. Ayun, lumaki na po yung tumor. Hindi naman nila kasalanan dahil talagang kinabahan po sila na mahawa. That's why we need to do those things. We need to technically integrate. We need to financially integrate. Nakita natin na yung virus, walang pakialam kung sino magbabayad. Kahit mayaman o mahirap, ikaw ay magkaka-COVID kung ikaw ay magkaka-COVID. And that is the whole point why we should fix PhilHealth. We don't say trash PhilHealth. We don't say destroy PhilHealth. We say fix PhilHealth. Because if PhilHealth is not there, I guarantee you the market will probably be a different scene where the prices will be higher kasi mas maraming pwedeng pagkunan ng pera ang mga providers. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Kasi pag isa lang po ang nagbabayad, yung tinatawag na monopsony, mas madaling tumawad. Actually, hindi nga tawad eh. Pag sinabi, kuyari, kung maganda ang patakbo ng PhilHealth, kung isa lang ang pinapakinggan sa merkado, pag sinabi ng PhilHealth, babaan ng presyo, susunod po ang karamihan ng mga ospital. So those are the systems that have to be looked at moving forward. And then also, when you say moving forward, sino magpapatakbo? Managerial integration. Hindi lang puro ospital. This is not the Department of Hospitals we're talking about. It's the Department of Health, which includes health promotion, surveillance, disaster risk reduction, outpatient services, primary care, inpatient, all of that happening at the same time. When will it happen? Well, sabi sa UHC law, dapat daw may results na in 10 years time. Kaso nagkaroon ng pandemic. May extend ba? Sabi nga natin nakita natin yung timeline since 1969 to today, pinatrabaho na natin to. Hindi pa ako napanganak, nagsimula na tong movement na to It will continue well into the future, but we should not always dream about the future. We should not always be stuck in the past. We should be in the present. We should look at what we are doing and make sure that we are doing it right. Maraming salamat po, and I hand over back to Doc Susie and Raymond for the rest of the program.
Okay, thank you very much. It's Dr. Albert Domingo. Ang galing, ano? Mahusay siya. Napakahirap nung in-explain niya, pero parang napakalinaw, no, ng how complex the system is and how I think during the pandemic, meron namang mga bright spots, no? Parang may mga gusto tayong gawin dati na hindi magawa. Ngayon, medyo nagagawa na. So congratulations, Albert, for an excellent presentation. I'm sure you'll see in the chat that our participants appreciated it. Okay, Raymond, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Susie, and thank you, Director Albert. Mas naintindihan po ng lahat. At least ako rin po, marami po natutunan sa inyong presentation. And we hope to be able to ask you a few more questions po sa Q&A session. Our next speaker was the first to organize the Universal Healthcare Study Group in 2008. He is a known national scientist, very, very honored to have us again for this webinar today, National Scientist Dr. Ernesto Domingo. Sir Ernie?
Thank you,
Go ahead, sir.
Raymond.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Go ahead, sir.
Raymond. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear, sir.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon to all the participants. And thank you to the organizers. But it's good that Raymond is here because when Raymond invited me, and you can check this, I politely declined to talk.
That's correct, sir.
Yeah, right? Okay. Then after that, I got a call from somebody whom I cannot say no, my chancellor. And the chancellor told me, sir, you better talk because it is about universal health care. And you have been there since 2008 in advocacy of universal health care. It's only correct that you should talk. But the truth is, anyone should know when it's time for him to stop talking. And that time has come to me. What I need now is more sleep. But because I've been ordered to do this, and because the subject is very close to the heart of the Universal Healthcare Study Group, I will do my best, all right? So, as you know, incidentally, UHC is not my longest advocacy because it's only 11 years. My longest advocacy was control of hepatitis B, which took all of 20 years. So you can imagine how long I have been talking for the last 5 decades. Now, the topic I would like to discuss is universal healthcare in the COVID-19 pandemic. And as the other Domingo has said, the law was passed 2019. In no time at all, the IRR was completed because I know I participated in the IRR. And the original plan was to roll it out within 2 years after the approval of the law. But again, there is the pandemic which sidetracked us. And therefore, the question that is really legitimate, very tempting to ask is, could we have done better in our fight against the COVID pandemic had we had a universal health care in place? As Dr. Domingo has said, putting a functioning universal health care is extremely difficult. Very advanced countries, much better in us in terms of technology and economics, took many years to put it. The national health system of England took more than four decades to function very well. All right, so to that question, I will make an answer right away. And I will say that my answer is a conditional yes. Had we had a universal health care in place, we could have handled this pandemic better. And the second topic I'd like to do is just paint a very idealized scenario to show why I'm saying that if we had a good UHC, we will handle the pandemic better. And number 3, which I will not discuss, is I will cite 2 studies that will be available to you which are empirical proof that where there is a universal healthcare in place, the handling of the pandemic is much better. So going back to the first and the main topic that I will discuss is, could we have handled it if there were in place a universal healthcare system? The answer is yes. But here are the requirements, I think, in the laid out universal healthcare for it to support a better fight against the pandemic. And I will mention them one by one. Many of these have been touched by Dr. Domingo, but in a slightly different way. Here are the following provisions of the law that to me are non-negotiable if you want the system to ease or make the response to the pandemic easier and faster and better. The first one is this: that system must make every Filipino included within the system only by virtue of citizenship, not by membership to any organization like PhilHealth. As long as you are Filipino, you're already qualified. That's the first requirement of a system. The second is, it is grounded on primary health care. And because primary health care is a very big entity, I will just consider one aspect of primary health care, which is primary care. There should be a good primary care, and this is characterized by the following. There is, in any area, a primary care provider who will be the initial and continuing point of contact between the patient and the system and function as navigator. That's very, very important. This navigator should be available to everyone without exception. Number two, there should be no distinction between public and private healthcare provider on whose services the patient is not requested to pay a single centavo after the services has been rendered. Why did I emphasize this? If we depend only in the public sector, I dare say you cannot implement universal healthcare whatever you do, because the private sector is much bigger than the public sector in all aspects. Don't look at the private sector as an enemy. It is a very good ally, and there is a way of co-opting them. I'm sure they will participate. So there should be no distinction. Again, this primary care professional who's the navigator may refer to a person, a solitary doctor. It may refer to a group of doctors. It may refer to a polyclinic. It may even refer to a hospital. It does not matter. The essential thing is they take the responsibility to care for a certain segment of the population for their primary care. The second requirement is, and this is very important, that system must be supported by an information system, electronic information system that connects the primary care facility or unit to the provincial as well as to the national health information system in real time. Incidentally, this is a big, big dream. And Dr. Domingo, this is one thing that you in the DOH should really do within a very short time. We have long advocated that there should be a very good national healthcare system where your information data can be loaded, unloaded, and where you can communicate. So I leave it at that, but that is, no system will work if you are on the pencil and paper mode. Now, there should be an integration of all healthcare facilities from the primary care locus to the tertiary hospitals, including manpower and technological facilities up to the provincial level, at which locus there is overall jurisdiction on administration, implementation, monitoring, and financing of the whole system, at least at the provincial level. The other feature is there should be a fully functioning and empowered health technology assessment group. That's called the HTA. And the HTA will not elaborate anymore as Dr. Domingo has elaborated. The HTA really is to make any policy, any introduction of the technology, any new service introduced to be based on science, and with that, not only the science aspect, acceptability as well as efficiency and financing. Let me then, with this minimum requirement, let me then create a hypothetical situation. For example, Mang Juan got fever and cough for 2 days. If this is a very good system, Mang Juan knows where to go. He will go to the primary care professional. And the primary care professional will look at him, decide whether a test for COVID is necessary. He found it necessary, and then he ordered it. In 6 to 8 hours. He has the result, and it is negative. And so what he did is send Mr. Mang Juan home with instruction, take this medicine, but appraise me of 2 things. If you are getting worse, and appraise me also if you are already recovered. Okay? In the other scenario, Mang Pedro had the same symptom, but the RT-PCR turns out to be positive. So the primary care physician decides on the question of quarantine. Should I send him home? Should I send him to a quarantine facility set up by the provincial government to cover the entire province, the primary goal of which is easy accessibility to the place of residence of the individual? That is going to be decided. The third is, Mang Pedro needs secondary and tertiary care. So the primary care provider decides on what designated facility he should be sent. Conduction is no problem because that's part of the responsibility. And this is characterized by an automatic admission policy, meaning I cannot turn you away if you are referred to me, the primary care professional. If I will turn you away, it will be my responsibility where to bring you. So, whatever, whenever admission is required, then so be it. You are required. You are admitted. Now, in these 2 examples, the role of the primary care provider is also can be also co-opted. For example, there is a vaccination going on. What's wrong with telling the healthcare primary care provider, why don't you take care of the vaccination of the people under your care? If you want assistance, we have a centralized team that can assist in doing this. But why don't you take primary responsibility for that? So the system is very good. That can also be used for the early, for example, when you are going to see people at risk of being exposed to the patient. That is in monitoring these people who have been possibly exposed and so on and so forth. Now, last, I'm going to end very soon, but I would like to end this hypothetical thing by going into the role then of the DOH and the PhilHealth, and that has been already mentioned, but I just put in a few things that I think is very important. For example, the DOH under a UHC should really be a coordinating and oversight body. What do you mean by that? For example, the national effort to control will be monitored and maybe coordinated at the level of the DOH. The DOH also having an oversight function is the authority to take over a province that is not doing very well and assume the healthcare delivery, at least for the moment until they are ready to take it back. Then it also has to be in control of deployment of health personnel nationally and be able to complement, for example, the shortages of healthcare professional, healthcare workers within the province. And as far as the PhilHealth is concerned, I think the PhilHealth should be reduced to the following function. It's simply a funder. And when it is a funder, it provides the fund that is requested at the provincial level. As soon as this is harmonized and they agree with it, it's given to the provincial level. They should have no hand in identifying the services to be paid from the fund, or going to be the people who will provide the services, and so on and so forth. But they will retain some auditing authority on how the funds are produced. So I would like to end in that note with the going back to my question, can we do it better with UHC? My answer is yes, with the minimum condition I set. And the third item with which I will end is this. Are there already empirical data to show that this will be the result if the UHC is laid out? The first proof of this was recently given by the Swillig Family Foundation in their program on Provincial Leadership and Governance Program, or PLGP, in their last colloquium only a few days ago. And they discussed and put in documentary form called colloquium kit, which can be accessed by anyone interested, and reported on the experience of 3 pilot areas, and these are Agusan del Sur, Aklan, and Bataan, who had initially laid out the universal healthcare system model, and then look at how these areas, using the UHC approach, were able to handle the COVID cases in that area. And just to summarize the experience, generally positive experience. It's made the process easier. But more important is, for example, the recent publication of the World Bank entitled "Walking the Talk in Primary Healthcare." And here they showed the tremendous significance of primary healthcare setup in answering the problem of COVID. With that, I'd like to again thank those who invited me here. I hope I was able to share with you something that is worthwhile. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Dr. Ernie Domingo, former Chancellor of UP Manila and National Scientist. Sir, always very nice to hear from you and to see that long-term perspective. No, we really wanted to have Albert, like the generation on deck that's coming into this, and your view, having worked in the system for a long time, and actually I remember with Kwasi Romualdez started this conversation in universal healthcare. Maraming salamat, sir. We're going to have question and answer later. We hope you can stay to join the discussion. Okay, so next in line, okay, sabi natin 3 generations, no? So punta na tayo dun sa current, yung mga mga magiting at matapang na nakasalang talaga yung leeg. One of your favorites, we've seen him at different parts of the pandemic. Nakita natin ito, nagkasakit, ilang beses nagka-COVID, hindi ko na alam. We've seen him go through a fire in PGH and had to weather really this decision to make PGH at the height of the pandemic a referral center, which was not really widely appreciated in the beginning. So we thought it'd be a good time to hear from him what the lessons learned are. And as I said, one of your favorites, Dr. Gap Legaspi, Director of the Philippine General Hospital. Gap, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Susie, Raymond, and I feel so inadequate following the two speakers, and of course, my idol for a lifetime, Dr. Ernie Domingo, who always teaches us something new every time he speaks. May I just share my, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Gab.
So it's up. So I think our role in sharing the lessons learned here, and I will never stop saying it, that the most important lesson that we learned from this pandemic is that human resource is our most important resource. No? And any kind of war, any kind of endeavor, any kind of challenge we go to, I think the bottom line is human, the people that we work with. And at this point, let me please indulge me with some time to just go back to giving honor and credit to the people. It will be difficult to do that for all of them, but let me just complete this honor by showing pictures that represent probably the events that occurred in the last 2 years here in PGH. This is a COVID crisis team composed mainly of middle-aged surgeons who have seen the worst and the best of humankind and have themselves been the worst and the best of humankind. And we're ready to dive into a big unknown, which is COVID-19 at the start. Although they were willing to do anything, they were also willing to listen to the wisdom of people who knew the science behind the actions that were performed by these men. Is what probably made the operations efficient and hopefully effective also, and of course long-lasting as we have endured in the last 2 years. So if you look at the phases of this was taken right in the middle of the opening of our COVID wards, and the stairs looked blank. No? There was no playbook. Hindi namin alam kung anong gagawin namin. Hindi namin alam kung mamamatay kami kagaya ng iba naming mga kasama. Pero may dalawa akong narinig na mga kataga na parang nagpatunay talaga na we were in the right company. Ang una, halo po ito ng mga UP graduate at hindi UP graduate. Ang isa sa kanila, sinabi sa akin, siguro nakita niya, nag-aalala ko kung kakayanin namin to. Sabi niya, boss, huwag ka mag-alala. Basta naman taga PGH o UP, likas na magaling. At ang mga hindi taga UP, pag sinunog mo yan, PGH ang abo, ang i-spell lang abo niyan. So I knew I was in a company of loyal and dedicated people, and that soothed the feeling of uncertainty. And of course, our words of wisdom from our scientists guided us through the difficult times. But even the best of the scientists have human sides to them. And I think one of the moments that was really, that I felt vulnerable when was one of them, while we were walking, going home, going back to the office one night, and started hearing the deaths of our friends in different hospitals. Sinabi niya sa akin, Gap, ayokong mamatay. So I felt the responsibility of keeping all of these people alive in a very unknown situation with an unseen enemy. So I think those were the moments at the start that forged the resolve to do this as firmly as we can, but of course with much care. And I think one of the most unforgettable scenes that I will ever also have in this COVID operations was March 29, before we opened on March 30, 2020, was when Dr. Ocampo, the head of the operations, was briefing our personnel here, the residents. If you look at their faces, they look blank. They had that same blank stare that we had. They probably were praying to them inside them. They were probably looking down, thinking, ano ba itong pinasok namin? I was watching them from the side, and I felt like a father sending his children to war, of which I don't know what instructions to give them. So yun yung mga moments siguro na parang lalo kang nagiging porsigido na maghanap ng paraan kahit magkano, kahit saan, kahit gaano karami, para lang masiguro na lahat ng mga nakaharap sa iyo ay uuwi ng buhay. Uuwi ng matiwasay, at importante ring makakatulong sa mga pasyenteng darating sa kanila na wala ring kaalam-alam kung ano nangyayari sa kanila. And I think as I said, this faces, the looks on the faces of these residents will forever be emblazoned in my memory, and leading to the fateful day of March 30 when I marched them off to the war that was COVID. But of course, that's all melodramatic. We all know that, thankfully, for the more than almost 2,000 direct COVID workers that we had, although we had one nurse that did not make it, a lot of them, the rest, did very well in the last more than 2 years. So this is what we have faced, and I think the smile on this nursing aide says it all, no? That despite the scars that you get from this war, despite the difficulties, they still find time and the chance to smile and offer their hearts to help. This is for those of you who don't know, this is the mark that will be left on your face when you wear that N95 mask for 12 hours. So we had to put derma pads to protect them. I'd like to make special mention also of the GITING at TAPANG, of the oldest member of the COVID operations, Dr. Raymond Alonso, who at 63 was the oldest member of our operations and is retiring next week. So I just want to take this moment to pay tribute to him for having established our COVID dialysis unit inside the COVID wards that we have. And he was here every day in every meeting to supervise dialysis of these patients who were very sick. And I think summing everything up, what we've done, what we've gone through, I think can be seen in this picture of one of our nurses whose photo was taken by a cameraman of a Philippine Star, coming to work amidst the flood in a bicycle, in a raincoat. But if you notice, she's fully made up. Naabutan siguro ng ulan. This is an epitome of probably what we have done. We have weathered the challenges. We have protected ourselves well. We have adapted coming to work in whatever way we can. And of course, all of this, hopefully, with Jess, we can say we did with style, with her makeup representing that. So it's been 2 years and 1 month since then, and I think all the lessons we've learned, we've shared a lot of them through the other webinars. And I was looking back, maybe 6 months or 8 months after we started operating as COVID referral center. Inisip ko, paano ba namin nagawa itong mga gagawin namin? Wala naman kaming binatayan na libro, wala kaming pinagtanungan ng mga eksperto kasi wala ring may alam. And interestingly so, it brought me back to an article I read when I was trying to, in my mind, organize what has transpired. And it brought me back to an article in 2018 that I read, written by Risa Herbosa Mantaring, who was the Sun Life CEO, Sun Life Insurance CEO, who was not really an athlete, but finished all 6 marathons, the 6-star marathons, the Boston Marathon being the last one, which is the worst marathon of all Boston run marathons in June 2018 when she wrote the article. And it hit me that what she wrote there, I went back to the article, summarized what we could all, use in the future, and I'm still using up to now, to maybe organize how we approach problems such as this that we've gone through. She mentioned that when your purpose is clear, you're most likely to succeed. And I think at the start, when Susie mentioned that the decision to be a COVID referral center was a very unpopular decision that had to be made, I think people started buying into the idea when they knew exactly what the purpose was for doing that, and how to do it maybe, and why we needed to do it. And I think when people buy into the idea because your purpose is clear, half of the job is done already. And as we have seen, no one wrote the playbook for this. As we said, conditions are rarely ever perfect, so we need to adjust quickly. We need to on a moment-to-moment, read the signs, read the indicators of if whether we're failing or succeeding, or whether we're effective or not, and adjust accordingly. I remember that we used to write a memo every 6 hours or every 4 hours and change something we said half a day earlier, and we up to the point that we just stopped issuing memos. That's why we had that important information and education committee headed by Dr. Bebarabe, that we communicated everything to this, all the adjustments. Of course, going to war without armamentarium is suicide, and I think the war chest of PGH was much to be envied, because we were really well stocked, having had the support from government and private corporations, and private and individuals as well, and from all walks of life. We were able to come up with the proper equipment, adjustments of infrastructure, and I think to this day, having computed what we've spent for or bought for, or the nations that came in, it will be close to 2 billion pesos already. So we still are using all of this equipment as we transition to the non-COVID situation. And as you have seen in the pictures, maybe you don't know all of them or most of them. We don't really choose the stars. Sometimes the stars aren't always the best ones for the job. Like in the Boston Marathon, the favorites, the world champions, did not make it because the marathon was so cold, the rain was so hard. They were not used to that. So those who won are those that were able to adapt. And I think what's important, if you get people to work with you, that they're dedicated, they're committed, they're adaptable. And if you try to form a star team rather than a team of stars, because when stars collide, it could be very painful. So I think choosing the right people is also a very much a big blessing for us in the operations that we had. And lastly, I think this is something also that helped us survive the rigors and the depression, probably, and the anxiety of the COVID operations. That when we were fairly established already, we reached out to our community, reached out to Mayor Isko, we reached out to the surrounding Santa Ana Hospital, we reached out to the UP Health System Infirmary, and offered our help in whatever way we can, with testing, with PPE, with medications. And I think also reaching out to other DOH hospitals and talking to them and coordinating with them really helped us get over a huge part of the problems that we have, and made us feel better that despite the big challenges that we had, we're able to help others. And in helping others, I think you also help yourself, as we have learned from this pandemic. So I think these are the lessons, important lessons from the trenches that if I might call them. But let me now just pick out maybe two, if I may be allowed, just two that maybe to be more practical, on the more practical side, moving forward. That I think, being a neurosurgeon, as hospital centered, before I became director, I think my world was in a 2.5 centimeter magnified operating field. But when I became director and got exposed to the health system and the health and the needs for the health delivery, I realized that it was I who was trivial. I thought everything was trivial outside the operating room, but now I realized that 80% of the healthcare actually happens outside the hospital, and a big part of the operations of our regular non-COVID healthcare could be taken care of by primary care development, which translates also to taking care of the COVID-19 pathway care. If you have good primary care, we could have taken care of the patients at home. We could have done better contact tracing, and of course, we could have mapped out the vaccination program much earlier and a wider scale. So I think the lesson here is that primary care is where the battle is fought, and the hospital is where the wounded and the dying are set. And talking about hospitals now, I think we really need to start organizing ourselves into a network which makes us resilient, whether with regular problems or with a pandemic like COVID. So we were proposing the one ward concept. This was that time with Secretary Ubial when he assigned me as a technical working group chair for the service delivery network of Metro Manila hospitals. We thought that if hospitals, whether level 1, 2, 3, committed virtual beds and made them available to anyone who would transfer in the network, the problem of patients reaching a hospital with no bed allotted to them, just like what Dr. Domingo mentioned, that if someone comes to your hospital, you're committed to admit them there in your network. So I think we should all agree that we devote a particular set of beds from our hospital into a virtual ward that everyone can access with a common funding, common financing, and organized by a command center. So the advantage of that is what's happening right now is patients go to hospital A, they're rejected to B, to C, and then they reach PGH, and there's nothing else we can do but just take them in, and that's why our ER is now filled to the brim. So in the service delivery network, patients are navigated according to their problem, and I think that has all been discussed earlier by the two speakers. In a more concrete way, I'd like to just end by making that service delivery network applied to COVID and how we thought it could be applied to any other situation where you will be overrun by patients. In a network of hospitals, whether big or small, we are asked to commit resources, number of beds, number of people, not only beds, but people, and committed to the principles of a network. And in non-pandemic times, we all do our own ways of operating our hospitals, identifying a single large hospital that will take in patients when the pandemic hits, like COVID. Just to make it more concrete, let's take the biggest COVID hospital is not PGH. The biggest COVID hospital is Jose Rodriguez in the Tala. It was able to scale up its beds to 526, I think. And a hospital that big can easily absorb patients from other hospitals, but of course it has also its limit. So in that network, when COVID patients start to come in, we send them all to a Tala, let's say. So PGH, Quirino, Jose Reyes, and East Avenue, and all the rest are able to do the non-COVID cases. They're able to continue serving non-COVID cases. So any COVID case that comes in goes to Tala Reposario, to the Jose Rodriguez Hospital. But of course, when they reach their limit, the network should be ready to take back these patients that are beyond the limit of the referral center into their own limits also. So in that case, we are able to take in COVID patients and continue the non-COVID care, because we all know the effects of the lack of access to non-COVID care in this pandemic, and it has resulted to a high mortality rate of our patients. So I think once this agreed, the limits are set, and we agree to share not only equipment and supplies, and not only transfer patients, but also share personnel and training, can we truly have a network that is resilient and adaptive to whatever challenges that will come later. So thank you very much, Susie. I hope I didn't exceed my time too much, but I just wanted to take advantage of this time to share this concept that we've been working on for a while now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Dr. Gap Legaspi, PGH Director. Salamat, Gap. No? thank you for all the work that you've done and for sharing your personal insights and then your vision. I think moving forward, looking at your vision for networking for resilience, this is really something we can continue to talk about, no? Kasi coming out of the pandemic, I think you have clearly illustrated what the problems are, but not just that, but what the solution is. So I've said it before, Gap, but the country is very fortunate that you were PGH director during the pandemic. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure your staff and the team in PGH all feel the same way. Okay, Raymond, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Gap. Just impressed po and really in awe of the reflections after your talk and how prepared on some level PGH, even with there was no manual or guidebook po, no, and essentially the incredible response of the human resources, as you mentioned, of the Philippine General Hospital in the past 2 years. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Our next speaker will be our last speaker for this webinar. She has been bringing the vision and maybe out what you would refer to as out of the box, but very effective interventions po, no, with regards to being able to train doctors despite the high risk and vulnerability of medical students. Choosing to continue education through any means possible despite the challenges brought about by the pandemic, being able to inculcate the value of research and new knowledge in a fastly evolving environment such as the COVID-19 pandemic po, no. Please welcome again to the webinar our dear Dean of the UP College of Medicine, Dr. Charlotte Chiong. Ma'am Charlotte.
Thank you, Dr. Raymond, Doc Susie. Again, it's a pleasure to be here in Stop COVID. I remember when Dr. Susie called me regarding the possibility of being involved in the Stop COVID. I readily said yes, and of course, we're always glad to be part of a big effort in informing our community on how we can actually survive COVID. Those were the early days, and I remember when Dr. Gap called me and told me that, of course, APMC already did not want our interns to be in the hospital. And I knew that the interns actually were the backbone of the hospital pre-COVID. I actually told him that I guess we just have to trust how we actually trained our students. And true enough, within 24 hours, about 130 of them volunteered to stay in PGH to serve in whatever capacity. And I think that actually embodied the bayanihan spirit and the GITING and TAPANG that we've been able to inculcate on our students, especially in the midst of a pandemic of this sort. No? If you remember the history of our institution, the UP College of Medicine, we remained open like PGH, and education, medical education continued even during the war. And this is no different. This is a war with an invisible enemy. And so it really had to take all of us into a, although the playbook was not very well written, it's something that we were brave enough to undertake. But if I reflect back on the 2 grueling years with an invisible enemy like SARS-CoV-2, of course, you have to go back to when we lost our colleagues, when we lost some of our revered faculty to this virus, when I lost, of course, even my own anesthesiologist, Dr. Greg Macasaet, whom I've worked with since 1994 when I came back from my training. And that has made me frantic. I remember sleepless nights, calling Dr. Austria regarding the possibility of converting his neonatal ventilator into something that we could use, trying to find out whether we could get access to testing kits because at the time, hindi pa nababalidate yung testing kit natin ng RITM. And I remember when donations started, offers for donations came in, I thought that we had to earmark all of those to PGH where we'll have our frontliners. Because in any war, you have to make sure that yung soldiers mo will be saved. And so most of the donations went to PPEs, to automated PCRs, to testing kits, and making sure we're able to equip our frontliners in PGH and make them safe. So I think we're all here now. And I think if we look at how we have survived, all of us here, and even in the audience, I suppose it really speaks volumes about God's infinite blessing to all of us. No, while we know that a lot of people also suffer from anxiety and depression, and we also saw that in our students. No, around more than 60% of those who responded to a survey that we did actually suffered from severe depression, and almost the same equal number actually suffered from anxiety. So we were just looking at the seemingly insurmountable pressure that came from this pandemic, and how our medical students who had to, of course, prepare to become doctors were severely affected. It was fortunate that during the start of my term, it was already one of our pillar programs is to make sure that we look after the resiliency and wellness for our students. And I remember when in the initial stages of the pandemic, they wanted an academic freeze. And we were beset with the possibility of rallies among some of the activist students because they wanted a stop to everything. So that first town hall meeting was very crucial. And syempre, when I started to talk, ang una kong sinabi sa mga medical students is, pag meron kang kailangan sa iyong mga magulang, ikaw ba ay magrereklamo agad? Ikaw ba ay magre-rebelde agad? O ikaw ba ay makikipag-usap na maayos? So I think that set the tone. And we reassured them that we will do everything that we can to be able to look after their needs. And that included a realization that 30% of our students actually were coming from marginalized sectors. And some of our students come from families who already were actually beset with problems, especially financial, even pre-pandemic. And when the pandemic set in, and they were all over the country because they were not here in campus. Ang mga bagyo na nangyayari sa ibang regions, naapektuhan sila. Although hindi naapektuhan yung sa Manila. So there's always a crisis somewhere, especially when the climate is really not optimal. And so we had to look after those students. May mga estudyante kami na nalaman namin na binagyo, nawala ng bahay. Para makakain ay nagkakargador sa pier o nagkakargador tumutulong sa palengke para lamang may makain sila. On top of being a medical student of the UP College of Medicine. So it came to my realization that in a pandemic of this nature, inclusivity is very important. When we look at how we can actually respond properly, we have to look at the weakest link. Kailangan tingnan natin yung pangangailangan. And so, tama, mga taong importante. And you just use your resources to be able to make sure that people are healthy and people are able to actually survive. And that's what happened. And I think that over the course of these 2 years, I've never seen such generosity among our alumni, among our friends, among parents, families, and we have been able to provide for data load for more than 140, 150 students since March of 2020. So we've been doing, supporting our students with data loads because otherwise they would not be able to cope with remote education. So and that continues to this day. We have been able to actually provide laptops to more than 150, and every year, new school year, meron pa ring mga requests. And nakakatawa nga kasi nung una, naisip nila, babayaran ba nila yung laptop? Tsaka may mga tanong ng mga faculty na iba or ibang, why? How do we know that they really need the laptop? How do we know that people who get financial support really need them? So the ethos behind that, when we talk as a faculty group, no, in the council, is that if you cannot even trust, your students to say the truth and be honest about it, then why are we here for? it's very important that we trust each other. And true enough, may mga estudyante na when they were given, let's say, 15,000 pesos for that month and for 3 months, some of them said, sobra na po ito, so bumagyo po dito sa Bicol, pwede ko ho ba ibigay na lang ito doon sa relief operations ng mga UP alumni dito sa Bicol? And there was one student who did that. When we gave something during the PGH fire at bumabagyo sa Zamboanga, na bigyan namin ng tulong, ang sabi niya, ay hahatiin ko po ito at bibigay ko rin po doon sa mga nasalanta ng bagyo dito sa amin. We have students from Cebu ng mga bumagyo and they're part of relief operations. So aside from their medical studies, they were looking at their communities. And I think that realization that this community is really one in promoting cooperation, bayanihan, and taking care of each other is actually very important. And that's where I saw the power of unity, the power of collaboration. And this actually subserved a lot of our programs in the UP College of Medicine. For example, we had the UP Ball, which was conceptualized to have the UP College of Engineering work with the UP College of Medicine faculty on certain projects in order to come up with biomedical devices. And over the weekend, it converted to a Stop COVID task force and came up with 11 projects. And that's thanks to the leadership, of course, of Dr. Wang and, of course, our counterparts in the UP College of Engineering. I was in constant communication with the Dean Ferdy Manigdeg during that time. And some of our faculty got involved also on some of their engineering projects, and some of our donors also donated to their programs there. And there was a lot of collaboration also coming from the UP College of Medicine and the UP College of Engineering. And later on, there was an elective event that was offered for the first time where our medical students could go to a class in Diliman to talk about innovation and biomedical device or product development. And we had to give for some scholarships to some of the students in order for them to be able to afford being enrolled in a very new elective. And I think this is going to be continued by our Associate Dean Joquino, as well as the UP College of Engineering faculty. So actually, the student aid that we gave amounted to millions already. We have been very lucky that our students have been able to cope, and once they graduate, they're able to give back the laptop. So we call it a laptop loan, but actually wala namang bayad. We just said loan kasi if they finish and they would like to give back the laptops, it can be used by somebody else. So yun lang yung konsepto ng laptop loan na inisip namin. So inclusivity entailed leveling the playing field for everyone. Inclusivity included taking care of all the faculty and all the staff. And I'd like to, of course, thank Dr. Legaspi, because when we had wanted to bring back our students for the first time in order for the bridging program in anatomy, because we were the first medical school to have back our students, he helped in making sure that they get vaccinated at Santa Ana Hospital. And that actually was very crucial because we needed to make sure that when they get back to campus, they will be safe. And not a single student actually contracted COVID. At nahinto lang yon because magsa-surge yung Delta at that time. But none of them actually contracted the COVID infection, despite the fact that 150 of them came back to campus for their bridging program in anatomy, which really became a model. It's good that the digital transformation thrust of the college already started in 2018. So noong June of 2020, we were able to launch already the virtual campus. So actually all the services are available in the UPCM web portal that's been created. We even had the QR code and a digital health declaration form that you can fill up. So we would know basically who are the ones who visited the different buildings of the UP College of Medicine, so that when there's going to be a report of an infected person, we would know who to contact, who are the people in the building at the time. So that was very empowering. We were able to actually make all our forms available in the web portal, so that even the clearance of our students could be facilitated, for example, for their graduation. and it's a single sign-on, so sign on to all the services that are available. And I think that was very well received by our students, our faculty, and our community. So the resiliency of our students actually was actually something that we gave a lot of importance to. But having said that, we also lost a few. We lost about 3 students because of anxiety and depression. And despite the fact that they were really doing well academically, I think there were other issues that we could not have control of. But having said that, we continue to have our crisis committee or management committee very active, and we have put in place even more services. And we even have faculty wellness champions. And this is a program that we are committed to continue for the next next decade, perhaps, because I think this is going to be a continuing issue. What is really amazing was that in the midst of this pandemic, we were able to really build even the new home of the UP College of Medicine that we hope to be able to open by July of this year. So groundbreaking, we were able to provide for safety for the construction workers. We did testing, we did monitoring, and we were able to have them here in barracks inside the campus so that they are able to continue the construction work. And this iconic building that we call the Henry C. Senior Hall will be the new home of the next batch of LU3 or first year proper students in the next academic year. And we're on track, we're even ahead of schedule. And so we are confident that by the next academic year, we will be able to welcome them to this new building. And this will also be the site of the UP CBOL, or the Surgical Innovation Biotechnology Laboratory, where you can develop products and students will be involved in that, as well as the country's largest clinical simulation center. Pero sana mabigay niyan ng gobyerno because the funds are still with DBM and they have not been released, although the approval actually came in 2021 and additional funding in 2022. So nag-a-appeal tayo sa government kung maaari ay i-release na po yung pondo niyan para naman mapaghandaan natin mabuti. So actually, when we talk about 6-star physicians that we wanted to produce in the College of Medicine, research is a very important component. And I'm happy to say na with COVID-19, the opportunity for doing research really shot up. No? Our faculty have been very active in research. 7% of more than 400 researches ongoing right now are actually driven by students even. And I suppose it's almost $1 billion now of research funding that we have been granted at the UP College of Medicine. And most of them, of course, are COVID-related, but there are also some non-COVID-related projects that ought to continue even after COVID pandemic has died down and we're able to move on to the new normal. Our education has actually been now hybrid format. We have already our clinical year students, LU 5, 6, and 7 in the hospital. We're going to welcome our LU3 in June for the Learning Enhancement of Academic Program, or LEAP 2 for anatomy. And just this week, we have placed orders for plastinated anatomy models. We've been able to raise almost 4 million pesos over the weekend just to make sure that we have plastinated anatomy models for them. Alam niyo po, because of this COVID, marami po ay cremation. So naging problema po talaga yung availability of cadavers na usually napakaganda ng ratio natin dito sa College of Medicine, 1:6. 1 cadaver to 6 students. But because of COVID, that's something that we had to also grapple with. So instead of ordering the very expensive full body plastinated models, the Department of Anatomy elected to actually order body parts. So we have about at least 10 of those plastinated models that will be coming into the College of Medicine for the LEAP 2 that will be going on in June. No? By June, I will have back all our LU3 students. So despite the challenges of COVID, we can say that we've been able to cope very well. In fact, the UP College of Medicine was the the first medical school that underwent virtual accreditation by PASCO. And we were happy to note that we've been given the highest level, level 4, and this will be true for the next 5 years. So the accreditation process was for the first time virtual, and we were able to successfully hurdle that with flying colors. So the research and of course the educational technology that was harnessed was very crucial in us being able to move forward during the COVID. And I would say that partnership is very important. Partnerships with NGOs, partnership with the hospital, support of the university. Programs like this, UP College of Medicine is very happy to be part of this Stop COVID Deaths webinar from the very beginning, because it provides us a platform by which we are able to also reach out to our communities. And there will be more exciting programs that will be forthcoming. I was just in a talk this morning about community-based programs that will also enrich the education as well as the research training of our students. And of course, yung pinaka-importante, being able to produce a cadre of physician healers who will be dedicated to making sure that the implementation of universal healthcare in our country comes to fruition. I think that the pandemic lessons that we have been able to learn will really enhance even further how we can implement universal healthcare. And although I've been in talks pre-pandemic with some World Bank officers who told me that it's going to be a challenge for us because the Philippines will not be able to afford universal healthcare. If we were to just continue with our present healthcare delivery system or healthcare system, with the experience of COVID and with people like, of course, people from DOH, of course, our speaker today, Dr. Albert Domingo, and our stalwarts like Dr. Ernie Domingo, I think we have the best chance of being able to do it now, having learned from the pandemic. So I think the silver lining of this COVID-19 pandemic is actually being able to see how weak our healthcare system is, but also be able to see the strength and be able to harness that kind of experience in order to move us forward. So yun lang, Doc Susie and Dr. Raymond, thank you for having me react to the presentation of Dr. Domingo, Albert Domingo. It's been a pleasure being able to give my reaction this afternoon.
Thank you very much. That's Dean Charlotte Chiong of the College of Medicine, and as you can see from our presentation, also very visionary, passionate, and persevering. No? When it was so difficult, the College of Medicine could continue to educate our doctors. Okay, so we are going to move now into our open forum. We're actually running a little late, but we're going to ask everyone to open their cameras. So Charlotte, let's see, Gap, Sir Ernie, Albert, and Ted, please open your cameras. And then we will have our open forum. But first, let me turn over to Raymond. Raymond, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Susie, and thank you, Dean Charlotte. Marami po talaga tayong pinagdaanan, but really your innovations po and the changes that you have instituted in teaching, learning, you need for connectivity, continuity, and the human connection po with the students as being prioritized, very, very important po. And especially you've touched on the mental health po of our doctors in training. Before we go into our Q&A session, we'll take a very, very quick break by showing our special public service announcement for today.
Aloy, bilisan mo! Dali!
Wala!
Ha? Ano nangyari? Ba't hindi kita makapitan?
Handa ka na ba, Kaloy?
Oo naman, ate! Nabakunahan na kami. May powers na kami laban sa inyo.
At hindi nyo na kami basta-bastang makakapitan. Yehey!
Sisiw!
Kaya mga bata, magpabakuna na kayo.
Stay safe and stay well. Mga bata, magpasama na sa Bakuna Center. Thank you so much, TVUP. The COVID Communication Public Service Announcement is one of the many creative outputs of the Stop COVID Deaths webinar team to push for pediatric vaccination for children aged 5 to 18 years old. We hope you'll be able to share this video clip with all of your social media accounts and so you could stay safe and stay well at magpasama na po sa Bakuna Center. We also understand that everybody is very busy, so we have prepared po very short videos, consumable, what we will lovingly call them Stop COVID Deaths webinar shorts. If you are able to, well, hindi naman po tambay in YouTube, but you'll be able to see them in YouTube po all over the place when you're trying to view any of the videos. So we hope you'll be able to visit www.youtube.com/tvup.ph for our Stop COVID Deaths webinar shorts. Dr. Susie?
Yeah, thank you, Raymond. And sabi ko nga may konting, teka yung ilaw ko na wala. May konti tayong katuwaan. Raymond, you're gonna give away, I think our audience is waiting for it. You're going to give away some anniversary specials. Go ahead, Raymond.
Thank you po. So in celebration po of our second year anniversary, as mentioned by Dr. Susie, we will be flashing on the screens the top 200, 200 po, top 200 viewers of the Stop COVID Deaths webinar series. From a very first webinar nung April 2020 all the way to last week. And as a gesture of our gratitude and appreciation of your support, we'll be giving away pens with alcohol dispensers po from TVUP for viewers 101 to 200. Yun po muna ang ipapakita po namin.
Oh, yun, tinan mo nga, Raymond, yung ball pen siya.
Na may alcohol.
Tapos, meron siyang alcohol spray. Okay yun na. Tapos, pagtapos na kayo mag-spray, spray niyo yung cellphone niyo, may stand.
Cellphone holder, yes, correct.
Okay, so for all of you who saw your names there, you're going to receive that in the mail, Raymond, right?
That's correct. Everyone will be receiving all of that that will be sent out via post, including your certificate po para po doon. So wala na po yung last year po, no? It was very different. We asked you to be able to pick them up in the nearest UP campus. Pero hindi po ngayon. Ngayon po, we'll be reaching out to each and every one of those in the top 200 from stopcoviddeaths@up.edu.ph and other means so that we'll be able to get your personal information para po maipadala po ito.
Meron ka pa itong pamimigay, Raymond, di ba?
Yes po. For viewer 1 to 100 naman, we'll be giving away 200 peso gift certificate from McDonald's Philippines po.
Uy.
Ito po ang mga makakatanggap ng gift certificate from McDonald's Philippines. This is reserved for our top 100 viewers. Our secretariat will be contacting all 200 viewers po na pinakita po flash on the screen via email with instructions on how they could receive their their tokens po from the Stop COVID Deaths webinar team.
Okay, so may pang merienda na kayo, no? And of course, we like to thank our sponsors for this. This is something that was generously given by a donor. Okay, Raymond, meron ka pa pang pamimigay.
That's it, Dr. Susie.
Yun na yun. O sige, okay. Sige, so we will probably just have a few minutes to have our panel together. And do you have an outstanding question there, Raymond, or should I roll a question for everyone?
The most upvoted question, I always try to choose that. It has to do, just because we're not naman immune or hindi nakalimutan natin what is going on in the real world with the upcoming elections po, no? This question comes in from Dr. Joseph Tortona. Are we ready for another possible surge in new cases in the weeks surrounding the May 9th elections? And will that surge be due to a local variant or any other variants? Are we resilient enough to push through forward? I'll post this to DOH po muna before to PGH. Thank you.
Sige.
Thank
Tapos
you,
kay
Dr. Susie and
sige.
Doc Raymond. Siguro yung pinakamabilis na kino-quote dyan is yung rinelease ng DOH na information that by the middle of May, if we are relaxed or we lessen our implementation of the minimum public health standards, is we anticipate a surge that can bring our cases to as high as 500,000. That was the initial projection. Nagkaroon ng recomputation, it was adjusted to, I think, something like 440 something, still close to that number. Maganda lang ipaliwanag na these are all projections, all right? And this is really not because of the election. Meron conspiracy theory na dahil daw sa election, tapos pagkatapos biglang magla-lockdown ng DOH. Una po, hindi ko kami yung nagla-lockdown. IATF po yung nag-decide kung ano ang ating magiging. It's not the DOH. Ang DOH ang nagsasabi kung ano ang status. And this is what we see that is happening on the ground. And the condition here, sabi nga po namin internally, sana mali ang prediction natin. Kung ang ating mga kababayan ay patuloy na magmamask, maghuhugas ng kamay, magdidistansya, at pipili ng maganda na airflow, hindi mangyayari yung numbers na yan. Over po.
Yeah, let's throw that to Ted. Ted, ano bang tingin mo dyan? Meron ba tayong forthcoming surge?
Hi. Yes. Well, everything is possible. Like any other illness, you can have re-emergence. The key is, meron tayong game plan na. Sabi nga ni Gap in the beginning, we didn't have a playbook. But the key is we now have a playbook, PDITR. And we now know the roles of each and every one. So I think we'll be able to handle whatever re-emergence happens. Yun lang, Susie.
Yeah, thank you. Gap, ready ba kayo kung research?
Yeah, well, we already are using our 42-bed isolation unit. No? So kung meron ng protocol, if that gets filled up, we start opening the wards here. But basically, I think the surge will, if ever the surge will come, it will be by the number that will increase. We have a feeling that the number of hospitalization and ICU need for ICU beds might not be as bad as the one in the previous year, last year, in July to August and September. So, but nevertheless, kung magka-surge man, I think the most hospitals that in Metro Manila will be ready to handle it, and I think the networking has already started also. DOH has started, is firming up the hospital, one hospital command center function.
Oh, sana matuloy yung yung drawing mo, Gap, yung network for resilience. Sana ganun yung mangyari dyan. Okay, we don't have any more time. We wanted to have a discussion, but I just really, I regret that we don't have enough time. And so we're going to ask our speakers to formulate their parting words for our audience. While you're doing that, while you're thinking, Raymond's going to go through our evaluation. Raymond, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Susie. So for those who are in the Zoom po, a little over 600, we are showing on the screen the evaluation poll. It's a 5-question poll with a 4-point Likert scale po, no? Strongly agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. You already know what to do. I'll read the questions therefore. Number 1, the panelists demonstrated thorough knowledge of the topic. Number 2, the panelists were well prepared and organized. Number 3, the panelists spoke clearly and audibly. Number 4, the panelists used appropriate language with technical medical jargons adequately explained. And number 5, the panelists contributed to new perspectives and knowledge on managing various key COVID-19 health issues. So we will not be closing this until the very, very end of this webinar. We will now be moving on to our final messages from our speakers before the synthesis and closing remarks. Dr. Susie?
Yeah, okay. Sige, let's hear first from Charlotte. Charlotte, your parting words.
Yes, well, I think we can do it based on our experience. No, whatever search there might be, I think that we're in a better position now. So I think our healthcare system should be able to handle that. So I think that the medical education will even be better after this in the new hybrid. So with the Doctor sa Bayan bill na kakapas lang, I think that there will be opportunities for even very bright, young, even poor students to get into the field of medicine. And this is going to, of course, help the DOH in the underserved areas of the country. So there's a lot of hope. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Gap.
Yeah, I think, well, of course, all the lessons that we've learned sabi nga ng saying, what that doesn't kill you will only make you stronger. And I think that is exactly what happened to us, to PGH in particular, and I think the rest of the healthcare system. It's just that maybe it would be a good time to reflect on the missteps that we've had so that we don't repeat them, so that we become more efficient and more effective, because the bottom line is really serving people, serving patients, while keeping our healthcare workers safe and healthy also. So thank you very much again, Susie and Raymond and our Chancellor. Congratulations on your second-year anniversary.
Thank you, Gap. Dr. Ernie Domingo, sir.
I'm very confident that should there be another surge, we will do much, much better than what we have heretofore experienced.
Thank you, sir. Albert.
Thank you, Dr. Susie. Ang call to action ko po ngayon, tinatanong natin, ready ba tayo? No? Just this morning, the Secretary of Health and the spokesperson, Undersecretary Behere, you might have monitored already while we were doing the webinar. Ang second booster or ang fourth dose, ika-apat na shot para sa A1, A2 at immunocompromised A3 ay magsisimula na po mag-roll out sa Monday, April 25 dito po sa Pilipinas. I see the director of the PGH nodding. So this is a very concrete step that hospitals, including the PGH and those of our healthcare workers who are listening, can do, so that if the question is, ready na ba tayo sa surge? Ito na ang pagkakataon, mag-ready na po tayo. Back to you, Dr. Susie and Raymond.
Thank you very much, Albert. And Ted, of course.
Oh, I'll echo that, no? Being in the National Vaccine Operations Cluster and the spokesperson of the NTF against COVID-19, I echo the call for everybody to get their booster shot, the first booster shot, for the many more who haven't done that. And of course, on starting Monday, those 12.8 million who have already had their booster shot, some of you, if you are a senior citizen or if you're immunocompromised, may now get your second booster shot. So get your shots. That's what we haven't said all this time. The vaccines had worked, and we are in a better place now because we're one of those countries that were praised for a very good vaccine administration program. Thank you, Susie.
Thank you very much, Ted. Okay, so we cannot end our second anniversary without words from someone who just brings this team together, not just for the webinar, but got the UP Manila Act together. And so great people on the team, but leadership really is key. And we would just like to acknowledge the important role that Chancellor Menchit Padilla played during the pandemic, just really coordinating the whole effort and being so humble, so proactive, and yet so what should I say, output oriented, no? Talagang nag-deliver ang UP Manila during this pandemic. So Menchit, your summary and your words for our audience.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Susie, and magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. So today's episode was opened by Dr. Ted Herbosa, one of the key proponents of this webinar series. And reflecting on the planning 2 years ago, Dr. Ted said there was an opportunity to put all resources within the University of the UP system to help the country by providing expertise in the sciences, risk communication, and other areas. Our main presenter was Dr. Albert Domingo from the Department of Health, and he focused on universal health care as it applied to the COVID pandemic. He first defined UHC. He said, simply stated, all people having access to quality health services without suffering the financial hardships associated with paying for care. Now, I need you to watch the replay because in the interest of time, allow me to just focus on a few items. You know, you need to review the continuum of care, the primary, secondary, and tertiary interventions. He discussed the expectations and realities in the implementation of financing healthcare. And he also discussed the 6 building blocks of the universal healthcare. Now, moving on to the challenges and opportunities of the universal healthcare, allow me to just mention 2 points. One of the major challenges is making UHC work with primary health care. And the second point, which I do want everybody to remember, he said, one of the important points is accelerated decision-making. Accelerated decision-making. And it did happen in the Philippines when RA 11469, the Bayanihan Act, was passed in less than a week. This law provided for COVID-19 response and recovery interventions and providing a mechanism to accelerate recovery in the whole country. So kaya naman pala. Now, the Universal Healthcare Act, or RA 11223, is envisioned to offer solutions to our problems, not just COVID-19. And although passed only in 2019, this has been a long journey since 1969. The law has given us an opportunity to review the health systems on the backdrop of COVID-19. Well, COVID-19 is not yet over. And as Dr. Domingo said, the target should be to strengthen the bottoms-up systems, suppress the virus, break the chains, and continue saving lives. You know, with COVID, the COVID pandemic, we were able to show that the whole of government approach really works. So he said, this time, the whole of government must make devolution work with technical, financial, and managerial integration. Our first reactor is national scientist Ernesto Domingo. And he said, I'm going to focus on this question. Could we have done better had we had the universal health care in place? And he said, yes. Conditional yes. Because he said, well, yes, we could have handled better the COVID crisis, but there are non-negotiables. First, every Filipino must have access. Second, we must be grounded in primary care, not primary health care, he qualified. Primary care, where every Filipino patient must have a navigator. Second, he said, the public and the private must be equal. They should be allies. Third, universal healthcare must be supported by an information system that connects to the national information system in real time. Fourth, we need a functional health technology assessment group. So I want you to please do watch the replay because he gave us ideal scenarios. You know, these are things that we could have if we have universal health care. He ends his part with his insights on the role of DOH and PhilHealth. He said, DOH must maintain its oversight function. It must be able to take over a province if not functioning well. It must be in control of deployment of health personnel and must be able to complement shortages in the provinces. For PhilHealth, National Scientist Domingo said, PhilHealth must be reduced to a funder with no hand in identifying the services to be paid by the fund, but it should retain its auditing function. So he said yes, conditional yes, with these conditions. Now, he refers to proof of concept from a recent conference hosted by the Zwillig Family Foundation, where UHC approach in handling COVID processes became easier because of universal health care. Our second reactor is our PGH director, Director Gap. And you know, he couldn't have said it better. He said, our best asset are our people. The best asset, in quotation, people. He reflected on the COVID-19 crisis 2 years ago when he said his team had a feeling of uncertainty at the beginning, with a fear of dying when our friends were dying from an unseen enemy. But he said that despite the scars of fear, now they can smile. Now they can say, we have weathered the challenges. Through the 2 years, PGH has shared its lessons through this webinar series. And one of Dr. Gap's realization is that primary care development is very critical because 80% of healthcare is outside of the hospitals. He said, primary healthcare is the battlefield. Only the dying goes to the hospital. Dr. Gap ends with the concept of networking for resilience, which brings home the concept of bayanihan. Our last reactor is Dean Chiong, who recalled the challenges of the academe in the midst of the pandemic. She recalled how 130 interns volunteered to PGH at the start of the COVID pandemic. She also recalled the colleagues who died because our colleagues were willing to face the battle of COVID without knowing the enemy. She also discussed the problems of depression and anxiety of students and faculty, not knowing what they're dealing with. Another realization of the dean is that 30% of our students really belong to the marginalized sector even before COVID came into the picture. So in other words, as part of administration, we have to be very inclusive in our response. And our gauge is the weakest link. And throughout this COVID pandemic, we, I guess, together with all the colleges of UP Manila, we felt the generosity of the alumni, the friends, and the donors who wanted to make sure that we will make a difference as we produce the next set of doctors, pharmacists, nurses, and all the other health professionals. So in closing, after 2 years, we can say that we have overcome fear of the unknown with knowledge from the Stop COVID Deaths webinar series. Indeed, we as a community have transformed the COVID crisis into opportunities to build on our resilience, address the weaknesses, and improve our health systems for better response. As Dr. Albert Domingo said, let us not be stuck in the past. Yes, dream of the future, but do act now. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat, and back to you, Dr. Susie and Dr. Raymond.
Well, thank you so much. Nobody summarizes like Menchit Padilla. Thank you so much, Menchit. And I'd like to thank all our speakers today. You are part of a very turbulent section of the history of the health system in the country and have led us through this. And so I think we are all very grateful for all the work that you have done. And Charlotte used the word trust. I think you trusted each other as a team, and you also trusted us to deliver and to do justice to the work that you're doing by helping deliver information to our audience na nagbigay din ng tiwala sa amin. So maraming salamat. Happy anniversary, everybody. Next week, we have a grand rounds case. So don't miss it. Be with us. We're going to discuss a patient. Secret muna, I won't tell you what it is. But we have a grand rounds case next week. So please be with us. And again, thank you to our speakers, our panelists today. I hope that, by being on the webinar today, you've been able to reflect and to collect your thoughts, because one day you'll have to start writing the books on how you led this country through the pandemic. So thanks, everyone. Raymond, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Susie, and thank you again for that wonderful recap, Chancellor. You just recap our 2 years of existence. So maraming salamat po. We are also seeing the results of our evaluation poll. At least 94% for all the questions po, no, put in strongly agree for their reviews for this webinar. So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Before we conclude our program, we will acknowledge the very hardworking team behind the Stop COVID Deaths webinar series. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat and for making each and every week's episode possible and for helping us churn out quality content week in and week out. We also would like to mention that we archive all of our Stop COVID Deaths webinars in the TVUP YouTube channel. So if you go to www.youtube.com/TVUPPH, you'll be able to see all 95 webinars, and then after this webinar, our 96 webinar po. We hope you get the chance to watch them on the playback. Marami po tayong nuggets of wisdom, especially if you go do and watch the playback po. This formally closes.
Raymond, teka muna. Before you say goodbye, we want to share with our audience the whole Stop COVID Deaths team. We're gonna ask them to open their videos for a bit para makita lang kayo, dahil kami lang ni Raymond nakikita nyo palagi, pero marami pong mga kasama sa paggawa ng Stop COVID Deaths. Okay, so there we have almost everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for all your hard work. We can't be here without you, without what you continue to do week in, week out for Stop COVID Deaths. Maraming salamat sa inyo. Okay, Raymond, paalam ka na.
Maraming salamat po and thank you again. This formally closes our webinar for this week. Antabayanan niyo po ang aming topic for next week po. No? We hope to be able to secure the availability of our speakers very, very soon. Let's see each other again for our regular Friday date. Ang ating look forward again to your company every Friday from 12 noon to 2 p.m. It's a date.
Together, we can stop COVID deaths.
So keep safe, keep healthy, and see you online.